Enter, rejoice, and log in. Enter, rejoice, and log in. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and log in.
The chalice is the symbol of our UU faith. If you have a chalice or a candle at home, it is time now to light it together as we say the same words we say each week at our fellowship. We light this flame as a symbol of new life, enlightening our way as the symbol of the warmth in every human heart. The lighting of this flame rekindle in us the inner light of hope, of peace, of love. May we share that light with all people.
Good morning. I am Marie Luna, your Director of Congregational Life. Thank you for welcoming us into your home today. It is good to be together, even in this online format. If you are joining us from another Unitarian Universalist congregation, welcome. If this is your first time visiting the fellowship, I want to extend you a special welcome. I hope that you will stay after this service to meet with me for a special newcomer breakout. More information on that later. Or please reach out by emailing me. I really would love to help you get connected here. Today's service is being led and supported by Reverend Christina Leon Tracy, our Senior Minister, Reverend Leah Ongiri, our Associate Minister, Allie Peters, our Intern Minister, Catherine Tollefson, our Lay Worship Leader, Kim Hartman, our Director of Religious Education, Steve Seek, our Music Director, and our wonderful musicians and singers, and Adam Robinson, our AV Tech. Thank you to everyone who has made this morning's service possible. This year, we are focusing on growing resilience. We're digging in to what it means to grow ourselves and our community to be sources of life, even when things get tough. Right now, we are focusing on balance. It can feel hard in tumultuous times to find balance, but our goal will be to explore ways to create balance together. It is now time to settle into your space, wherever you are, to take a deep breath and to be present to this time together, even from afar.
May we be filled with loving kindness. May we be one. May we be filled with loving kindness. May we be one. May we be peaceful and at ease. May we be one.
Good morning. I'm really glad to be here with all of you, especially our young people and our people who are young at heart. No matter how old you are, there are always things to learn and there's always things to discover. And that's one of the things that's I think is the best about being a Unitarian Universalist. You don't always have to know the answer to everything, and you can change your mind as you learn and as you grow. Well, right now, I've got our Wonder Box. And if you would like to guess what you think is in here, go ahead, place it in the chat box or have somebody help you type it into the chat box. And we'll get to look at what everybody else thinks is in here. Okay, I'm ready. Today we have a prism. So what's a prism? A prism is a special piece of glass or a crystal or even plastic that's made to bend light. So this prism right here can take a white light and split it into 7 different colors on the other side. This is what a spectrum looks like as the light passes through the prism. Can you see how the white light enters one side of the prism and then leaves out of the other side of the prism? A spectrum has the same colors as a rainbow because rainbows are made the same way. They're made out of bending light. And rainbows are actually gigantic spectrums. Isn't that cool? So each one of the 7 colors needs the other colors to be there in order to create the beautiful rainbow. But can you imagine if all of the colors believed that since the prism made them, that their color is the only true color and nobody else belongs there except for that color? So what if red said, I'm the true color made by the prism. Nobody else belongs here except for me. And then what if blue said, no, I'm the true color made by the prism. And then what if green said, you're both wrong. I'm the only true color that belongs here. Well, none of them are right. And it's a good thing that they're not, because if there was only one color as the true color, then we would have a one color rainbow that would be the world's most boring rainbow ever. Oh, wait, how can that be? Isn't there only one right answer or one truth and everything else is wrong? Nope. The beautiful thing is that the colors, instead of believing that each one of them is the true color made by the prism, can see that the spectrum has more than one true color, that there can be more than one truth, and that they realize that they are one truth among many. They can hold onto their own truth while also holding space for all of the truths at the same time. So the beauty is that one light becomes 7 lights that all coexist perfectly together. So as we hear the rest of this morning's service, and as we go about our lives this week, let's remember that in order to give deeper meaning to our individual truths, we need to know and to hold and to make space for other perspectives too. We are one in a community of people. Each one of us holds our own truth. We celebrate that we are at our best when we make room for the many truths that exist among us.
Sing out praises for the journey, pilgrims we who carry on, searchers in the soul's deep yearnings, like our forebears in their time. We seek out the Spirit's wholeness in the endless human quest. Look inside your souls, the kindling of the hearth our pilgrims knew. Find the Spirit always restless, find it in each mind and heart. Touch and hold that ancient yearning, kindling for a newfound truth.
The following reading is an excerpt from Dust Tracks on a Road, An autobiography by Zora Neale Hurston. For a long time, I gloated over the happy secret that when I played outdoors in the moonlight, the moon followed me, whichever way I ran. The moon was so happy when I came out to play that it ran shining and shouting after me like a pretty puppy dog. The other children didn't count. But I was rudely shaken out of this when I confided my happy secret to Carrie Roberts, my chum. It was cruel. She not only scorned my claim, she said the moon was paying me no mind at all. The moon, my own happy private plain moon, was out in its play yard to race and play with her. We disputed the matter with hot jealousy, and nothing would do but we must run a race to prove which one the moon was loving. First, we both ran a race side by side. But that proved nothing because we both contended that the moon was going that way on account of us. I just knew that the moon was there to be with me. But Carrie kept on saying that it was herself that the moon preferred. So then it came to me that we ought to run in opposite directions so that Carrie could come to her senses and realize the moon was mine. So we both stood with our backs to the gate, counted 3, and tore out in opposite directions. Look, look, Carrie, I cried exultantly. You see, the moon is following me. Ah, you's a tale teller. You know it's chasing me. So Carrie and I parted company, mad as we could be with each other. When the other children found out what the quarrel was about, they laughed it off. They told me the moon always followed them. The unfaithfulness of the moon hurt me deeply. My moon followed Carrie Roberts. My moon followed Matilda Clark and Julie Mosley and Oscar and T.D. Miller. But after a while, I ceased to ache over the moon's many loves. I found comfort in the fact that though I was not the moon's exclusive friend, I was still among those who showed the moon which way to go.
Sing out praises for the journey, pilgrims we who carry on, searchers in the soul's deep yearnings, like our forebears in their time. We seek out the Spirit's wholeness in the endless human quest. Stand we now upon the threshold, facing futures yet unknown. Hearth behind us, wayside hostel, built by those who knew wild roads. Guard we ere their sacred embers, carried in our minds and hearts.
On a clear day, the moon and sun shine down on all of us. The moon and sun are scientific truths of our atmosphere, but across the world we all experience the moon and the sun in different ways and at different times. Universal truth that connects us all, is unwavering. Yet, like the sun and moon, it shines differently for each of us. And like the sun and moon, it endures. but we grow and change. Every time we enter into relationship with another person, we are tasked with seeing and understanding their truth, as well as helping them to see and understand our own. And with each connection we make, our opinions loosen, our perspectives shift, our understanding deepens, and our capacity to weave harmony from these differing truths grows. My truth has always rested most comfortably within that flexible gray area, rather than the rigidly defined. The reasoning and thought behind something has always meant more to me than the thing itself. But I can understand why others might find more comfort in the clarity that comes from well-defined ways of thinking. When faced with dilemmas, it's a relief to have simple, clear answers to rely on. I, however, always find myself coming back time and again to the conclusion that there is no clear or easy answer. Simply accepting that a clear answer or truth doesn't exist is challenging enough when facing the issues of society and the world that can mercifully often feel abstract or separate from our daily lives. But what about the times when we are called to act or make a choice? What then? If we don't have a set, universal truth to rely on for guidance, how do we make the right choice? In today's information-saturated world, it can feel virtually impossible to discern what is true, let alone derive any meaning or guidance. At some point, we simply have to bring ourselves back to that one day or one moment at a time and tune into our own individual truth to find the way to do as Maya Angelou so famously advises, to do the best you can until you know better. Then, when you know better, do better. But listening to that inner voice doesn't mean shutting our ears to other perspectives. We can balance our truth with an open curiosity about the truths of others, recognizing that each stems from the much larger universal truth of the human experience. Until we know the universal truth, until we know the motives of the moon, this is really all we can do while treating ourselves and everyone else on this same journey with compassion and understanding.
A few years back, Los Angeles Rabbi Joel Nickerson preached a message to his congregation on Yom Kippur called 2 Pockets. There's a slip of paper I have taped to my computer screen, he described, with 2 phrases on it. It comes from the teaching of Rabbi Simcha Bunim, a great Polish Hasidic master at the turn of the 19th century. He is credited with saying the following: everyone must have 2 pockets with a note in each pocket so that they can reach into one or the other depending on the need. When feeling lowly and depressed, discouraged, or disconsolate, one should reach into the right pocket and there find the words, "The world was created for me." But when feeling high and mighty, one should reach into the left pocket and find the words, "I am but dust and ashes." Rabbi Nickerson explains, the phrase "the world was created for me" comes from a passage in the Talmud about our uniqueness. The very first person was created to teach us that destroying a single human life is like destroying the entire world. And at the same time, saving a human life is like saving the entire universe. God created each person uniquely, and therefore we must remind ourselves that the world was created for me. The phrase "I am but dust and ashes" comes from a passage in the book of Genesis. God witnesses the evil doings of the people of Sodom and Gomorrah and decides to destroy them all. So he shares this plan with Abraham, whose conscience makes him confront God with ethical questions. In an attempt to negotiate the saving of people's lives, Abraham says, "I am but dust and ashes, but if there are 50 righteous people in the towns, will you spare them?" Bunim, remember he's the Polish Hasidic master, he highlights Abraham's lack of pride, his absence of vanity. He teaches that in moments of opportunity or significant challenge, sometimes it is our humility that can bring meaningful shifts in our lives and in the lives of others. Decentering oneself can even change God's mind. In Unitarian Universalism, if you will forgive a generalization, we're not usually very concerned with swaying God's opinion. That's not typically how we think about communicating with the Spirit of life. We are more invested in understanding ourselves, our own purposes, causes, and opinions. Our tradition attempts to describe this personal truth-seeking as foundational to our faith, and also to balance it with the counterweight of community wisdom and the meaning we glean from sources outside of ourselves. And this is our fourth principle, a free and responsible search for truth and meaning. Reverend Christina tackled the free and responsible part in her service last week, which is available on our YouTube channel. Today, we focus on the second part of our fourth principle, about truth and meaning. How do we find our very own truth? And does that make it the truth, the capital T truth? Zora Neale Hurston, the anthropologist, fiction writer, and a central figure in the Harlem Renaissance, describes a childhood world made just for her in her autobiography, Dust Tracks on a Road. For a long time, I gloated over the happy secret that when I played outdoors in the moonlight, the moon followed me whichever way I ran. The other children didn't count. When her playmate, Carrie, disrupts her conviction, challenges her truth, with the claim that it is in fact Carrie the moon loves and follows, Zora feels her insignificance keenly. Zora must not matter at all then, if not all love and attention and glory, then none. If the world is not made for her, then she must be nothing but dust and ashes. I know this feeling. I too have been hurt by the unfaithfulness of the moon. The summer I finished college, I took a trip with my best friend and her family, who had a river outfitting company. We floated down the middle fork of this salmon river in Idaho, gazing up at craggy, jutting rocks and swimming in the coldest, clearest water. When we got off that river, I was dirty and sunburned and greatly at peace with a whole world made just for me. We stopped at a convenience store to use a real bathroom, and I called my mother from a decrepit payphone. My grandmother's health had taken a sharp turn for the worse, she told me. Did I want to say goodbye in person? How quickly could I get there? It only took a few hours to drive the distance it had taken a week to cover by boat. But it was a long few hours. I sat with my best friend's arms wrapped protectively around me, and I looked out the window. The sense of spaciousness was gone. I felt small and scared, squished. I marveled that my suffering could mean so little to everything I saw. It all looked exactly the same, but I was utterly transformed. I was, after all, just dust and ashes. As are we all, I guess, including Dante Wright, a 20-year-old African-American father and partner and son and friend and person who was fatally shot by a police officer during a traffic stop in the Minneapolis-St. Paul area this week. How must his loved ones be feeling? There are some agonies no words can express. Unlike Dante, my grandmother, her name was Frances Landsberg, she died peacefully years after this image taken on my 7th birthday. I flew home in time to sit with my family as she died surrounded by those she loved most. It was a good death, a simple one. It came at the end of a complicated and sometimes sad life, but also a purposeful, well-lived one. It is the kind of death Dante deserved. It was denied to him, as it has been to many others, by the genocidal violence of racist white supremacy. And still, angry, terrified, lamenting crowds in the street notwithstanding, the world carries on. As Zora's friend taught her, we are paid no mind by that moon. When we are in our most poignant moments of grief, basic evidence that life continues can feel like the worst insult. Life itself mocking us. Indeed, it is sometimes our truth that nothing is real or the same or alive anymore. This is the single-colored truth that Kim talked about during the Wonder Box. The truth that is intimately, deeply personal. This is a real and valid form of truth. And yet, the larger rainbow truth, which is what Kim named the collective meaning, is that existence isn't about any single one of us. Not when it comes to the gentle death of an elder, like my grandma Frances, who was able to express with dignity that she was, in fact, ready to die. Not even, heartbreakingly enough, when it comes to the terrible murder of a young person in the street. Only structural change, the kind that forever breaks and buries systems of white violence over brown and black bodies, so that something new and whole can hold us instead. Only then can Dante's death possibly be addressed. Even if we are ever able to accomplish that, his being claimed too soon by the ancestors will never be right. It can never be considered acceptable. We have so many balancing acts. A world created for us in one pocket, and dust and ashes in the other. Truth and meaning, grief and healing, trauma and recovery. This gets much harder in a society with a violence epidemic. I can't even prepare worship a few days ahead of time without going back in to edit and update as footage is released of 13-year-old Adam Toledo in Chicago, another black kid shot dead by police, and then 8 dead in an Indianapolis workplace shooting. Can you imagine dying at work? And yet, eventually, not always, but sometimes, there is closure in our grief through time, process, justice, prayer, or otherwise. There can be comfort relief in the experience of the earth and her moonlight companioning us constantly, steadfast in the face of personal triumph or tragedy. Zora puts it this way: I ceased to ache over the moon's many loves. I found comfort in the fact that though I was not the moon's exclusive friend, I was still among those who showed the moon which way to go. Zora realized that the moon followed others as well. That's why it didn't just freeze up when her friend played and ran in the moonlight. And I too learned no one is the center. When my grandma passed from life years ago, or even this week when my heart is sick with sorrow for Dante and his people, and terrified, always, for my own Black babies. The moon has continued her course across the sky each and every night, and in my calm moments, I recognize this as right. After all, it is not just me or just you who depends on its dark glow. It is for everyone, everywhere. We might be in the middle of our own orbits, and I hope you do inhabit the center of your life. But putting ourselves at the center of the world denies the power of connection. It obliterates the beauty, meaning, and potential that comes from relationality. It renders the moonlight journeys of our friends irrelevant, trivial details, instead of critical front-page stories, whether joyous or tragic, worth telling and retelling, and weaving into one collective meaning that both includes and exceeds our own personal truth. We discover that we are a crucial part of something much larger than our own insignificant selves, when, paradoxically, we remove ourselves from the center of the universe. Instead, we are merely in and of it, no greater and no lesser than any other, no more impervious to destruction and loss, but no less so either. At the end of his 2 pockets message, Rabbi Nickerson asked his congregation to actually stand and to repeat after him. The world was created for me. I am but dust and ashes. The world was created for me. I am but dust and ashes. The world was created for me. I am but dust and ashes. This was at Yom Kippur, so it's how he invited his folks to start their new year. And this is how important our 4th principle is in Unitarian Universalism, to be free and responsible in the search for truth and meaning. Do not ache over the unfaithfulness of the moon. You are among those who show it which way to go. May it always be so. Amen.
The star of truth not dimly shines behind the veiling clouds of night, but every searching eye divines some partial glimmer of its light. The certainty for which we crave, no mortal ones can ever know. Uncharted waters we must brave, and face whatever winds may blow. Though for safe harbor we may long, we must not let our courage fail. And though the winds of doubt blow strong, upon the trackless ocean sail, from honest doubt we shall not flee, nor fetter the inquiring mind. For where the hearts of all are free, a truer faith we there shall find.
Sharing our individual joys and concerns helps us collectively to grow resilience. Connection sure is different in a virtual world, but it is still available. And so if you would like to share whatever is on your mind or your heart right now, please feel free to type your joy or your concern into our chat box. That way we can hold space for you and with you as we worship. If you would like your news included in our weekly care email that goes out this afternoon to members and to friends who have asked to receive it, then please email Reverend Leah or fill out our website form. We will drop that info into the chat as well. And after this morning's service, a member of our care team is going to host a breakout room for anyone who would like to process their life's joy or concern or just anything especially tender that might be present with you in general or today. You'll hear more instructions about that during our closing words, and all are warmly invited. And we always welcome you to be in touch if you would like to connect with me or any of our ministers or a member of our wonderful care team. And now let us breathe into this shared silence and then join together in our sung response.
And we believe in life and in the strength of love, and we have found a need to be together. We have our hearts to give, we have our thoughts to receive, and we believe that sharing is an answer.
This month, we are focusing on balance. And so now, as we take part in our morning offering, I invite you to consider the balance between what you have and what you can offer. Each of us have different circumstances and situations, and sometimes we are more able to give, and sometimes we need to be able to receive. This balance between giving and receiving is a spiritual practice, and we invite you to participate. Just because our offerings are virtual, they are no less real, and we need your support. We know that there are always those among us who are in need, and we are here to help. It is why we exist as a fellowship, to be here for you when you need us. Please don't hesitate to reach out to Reverend Leah, to Allie, or to Reverend Christina if you are in need of financial or emotional support so we can offer help. We also want to honor those among us who have been left relatively unscathed by the crises of recent months and have resources to offer. Our community is gathering virtually, but our expenses are real. I invite you, if you have never donated to the fellowship or haven't in a while, please do so that our ministries might be able to continue and for the months and years to come. As you hear these words from Angie Miller, think about why you are a part of the fellowship and why you give. And then please do. Thank you.
Why I love the fellowship. I love the fellowship for all of the people, the diverse perspectives, getting to learn and grow with everyone that I meet. It's a constant lifelong learning adventure, and I'm excited to be a part of it.
As we come to the end of our service, we will extinguish our chalice flame, even as we still hold its light in our hearts. As we extinguish this flame, let us go our ways with hope in our hearts, with our spirits renewed, and with a deeper understanding of life's mystery. Let us carry the light of compassion and commitment to build a better world. After our closing words, we will be having small breakout groups for conversation. In a moment, we will hear a short postlude song. If you do not wish to participate in any small group conversations, then please use that postlude music time to log off and leave the Zoom meeting. If you choose to stay, you'll be invited to choose your own breakout group on Zoom. One option will be for newcomers to join our Director of Congregational Life, Marie Luna, in a special newcomer group. Another group will be led by Reverend Leah, and I will also lead one as your worship leader this morning. A last group will be just for informal, unmoderated chit-chat. If you have any trouble selecting your group, just stay here and we'll do our best to help you in a moment. And with that, go in resilience, growing in strength. Go finding balance in whatever ways that is possible this week. Go in peace, knowing we embrace each other, even now from a distance.